Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 39 of Dooner's Guide Through Mirkwood. I have one of my idols on today. Idols, heroes, most important musical influences. That's how I would put it. Mr. Joel Heumann from North Carolina. How you doing, Joel?
Very well, thank you. How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing better than well. It's been my rock and roll dreams seem to be coming true, which is started with you, which we'll get to. But before we do, a couple housekeeping items, which are just becoming big headlines in my life. Prescott Niall from the Knack, My Sharona. This guy, hit 1979.
He looks good there.
Yeah, check. That's Prescott. He actually transformed that day to come on. I mean, for the photo shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about a shapeshifter. That's a shapeshifter. I'm looking forward
to seeing him.
No, Prescott is actually awesome. I had a great conversation with him. The Gateway Drugs, his kids band, Joel, are hot. Mm-hmm. They're really good. Yeah, they have a great sound. A couple new songs that are out. I actually like gave Prescott my detailed impressions of them, and they're awesome. Couple of real rockers and a band that hopefully I'm going to have them on the show soon. So we'll see where that goes. So Prescott's on. Ken Tucker, my brother from another mother in Indiana. Joel, you actually bumped him. He was supposed to be on today.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's your grandkids' fault, actually. So we can blame them, but we'll do that over time. We'll take our time. We'll do it slowly now. So what I did is I turned it into something different. So I've been seeing a lot of people playing live and web streams, and it really lights me up, So I went to the Metal Mariachi show, Joel, last week. I had him on my show.
Yes.
And it was amazing. They dedicated Hotel California to my Uncle Marty. Mm-hmm. And they just had such a cool take on all those songs. Another brick in the wall. You got to hear it with the horn and the way they do it. It's so original.
Los Charros, right?
Charros of Rock, not churros. At first, I called them the Churros of Rock because I'm some white boy, Yeah. But I apologize, and I love them. And so
Charro plays very well too.
Dude, these guys are amazing, and it lit me up about how they, I got to go to a concert that night. That was the first time since COVID that I felt like I went to a concert, and it was great. I enjoyed it. I went back and rewatched the replay, and it's awesome. I want to spread that out and have more people do that because we all need to rock and roll, even though we're stuck in our homes. So, Anyhow, so Ken Tucker, what I'm going to do, my point, I'm going to do a live happy hour with him. Right, so 5:00 on Friday, he's going to come on. He's going to play my favorite song. Right, Looking for a Brighter Day. It's an amazing song. It's in his back catalog, Joel, and I heated up on it. It's my inspirational song I listen to every day. So he's going to play it live, happy hour on Friday. Saturday, I'm having a fun little show with buddies from college. So I'm a big Fish fan, Joel, right?
Yeah.
So I saw them. So they played MSG. The first time they played was 12/30/94. Right, 12/31/95. They had a huge show at New Year's Eve. Amazing. They played Sea and Sand from Quadrophenia. It was just an amazing show. And then they went up and recorded an album up at Bearsville Theater in Woodstock. Me and my buddies all were going to school in New Paltz. So there was, a Mike Gordon sighting. We're hearing rumors, things going around. Long story short, they ended up doing a surprise show in front of 200 people. Me and my buddies were all there. There's a great story. It's over a couple days and the day before and what happened. And so we're all going to get on and do a fun show live, 4:20 on Saturday. We're going to talk about that. It's known historically as the Third Ball Show. We were all there. It was magic. It was unbelievable. So we're going to light up on that on Saturday. Next week, we're looking at Chris Pitts. We're looking at Liberty DeVito from Billy Joel's band, the drummer. I can't wait to talk to Liberty. Just talked to his press agent, and we booked it. We're finalizing the time, but I think it's going to be next Wednesday or Thursday. Really looking forward to that. So great things going on with the show, but what's really great that's going on right now is that you're here, man. How you doing, Joel?
Very good. How many times did you see Fish?
I keep saying 146. It's somewhere between 142 and 46. I got to go back and check my stats. I'll actually post them. I know Chalk Dust Torture is the most song I've seen. I think it's like 50-something times. But I've seen some – the thing is I'm old, right? So I saw some really pinnacle shows back in their history from 94, 95, 96. I saw them do the White Album. I saw them do Quadrophenia. I saw them do Remain in Light. I saw them at the Giant Country Horns. I saw the Third Ball Show. I've seen the full Gamehenge set where the Trace tells a story of just amazing story. Can't even go there. I want to start lighting up on Fish more on my show, get my buddies on and spreading into that community because I have a lot of good stories to tell. A lot. I want to talk about some of the concerts you've been to as well, Joel, today.
Concerts.
Yeah. All right, so I'm ready to shut up, Joel. Joel, when did you open your first record store?
When?
Yep.
September of 1974.
September of 1974. Wait, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. I was born in April of 75, so I'm just seeing where my folks in life were at. It's somewhere around there. So where was it?
That was in northern Manhattan, corner of Dyckman Street and Broadway. And let's see, I just set up an Instagram thing for Mad Platters. So there are a couple of photos of that 1970s, early 1970s, late 90s, 1970s store.
And obviously, is Alice in Wonderland inspired?
Excuse me?
It was Alice in Wonderland inspired?
No.
No.
But you know, the name Mad Platters, of course, you had to do something like Licorice Pizza or Vinyl Resting Place. You had to come up with something witty for a name. But Pantasia was originally a clothing store predominantly because I had worked in a clothing store, and I figured it being the 70s, people would be interested in a more contemporary look. And we had 3 crates, melon crates of records in the back of the store, and they were predominantly imports, which gathered some interest.
Name a few. Name a few of those records that were in those original 3 crates.
Oh, it's frightening.
Come on, name a couple.
Of course, there would be things like Aria, the Italian group, and Tangerine Dream, Faust. There would have been things like Kevin Ayers and Salt Machine. It's just, I look at myself and I think if I had kept onto one piece, kept a hold of one piece of everything that actually passed through my hands, it would have been very, very ridiculous.
So by the time I met you, all those bands were in your big import section. You know, to the right of the store, you had like 4 or 5 shelves that were all imports, and that was a big draw to Mad Platters was the fact that you had all of that nobody else had, right?
Right, and you know, the only ways to really get word out to people in those days was word of mouth or magazines and
right,
you know, newspaper reviews. So surprisingly enough, word spread very, very quickly, and northern Manhattan was not a logical location for an unusual record store. You were either in Midtown or down in the Village.
Right.
But people were coming from Jersey. You had people coming from as far away as Washington, D.C., which was a considerable distance. Now, whether they were coming exclusively for the store, I kind of doubt. But they did make a point of getting there because eventually we developed the largest selection of rock and jazz imports in the Northeast United States, if not the entire United States. The one time that I put together a mail order catalog, we had about 1,600 import titles at that point. Wow. That was not even the high point.
So is this all at the first store in Manhattan, or is this?
That was at the first store. Yes.
So how long were you at that location?
From then until December of 1979.
Okay.
At which point, the landlord, as landlords are wont to do, wanted to very substantially increase the rent. And having lived through the 1970s at that location, with having been held up at gunpoint, having had another store owner shot dead in front of my store on Halloween night of, I believe, 1975, maybe 1976, having had 2 break-ins, having had a friend of the store shot dead by Son of Sam, it was time to move.
Wait, whoa, back up there. Say that again?
Yeah. Well, you reacted to that Son of Sam thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, my first employee was Cliff Coltrari, and he and his best friend, Dominic Nardi, were very regular visitors to the store. And of course, when you hung around the store long enough, you had to become an employee.
That's what happened to Alan Mack. That's Alan Mack, right? We'll get to that.
Yeah, it happened to everybody. And, you know, then it was the indoctrination to becoming an employee was trial by inebriation, in which I would get soused and leave you to work.
Wait, that sounds familiar.
But one of Cliff and Dominic's very close friends was a girl named Valentina Suriani, and she and her boyfriend were shot by David Berkowitz in his car late one night, and Cliff came to my house my apartment the next morning, and he was really, shall we say, distraught. And he came in, they shot Val, and it was, one of those trying times. Very trying times.
Rest in
She
peace
was
to
a
them
lovely
both.
person.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so when did you get to the second store? When did you move to the second store?
The second store happened sometime in 1977. And the story was, I believe, again, it was Cliff that told me that Hilly Crystal of CBGB's was planning to open the Anderson Theater and make that into CBGB's Second Avenue Theater.
Good idea.
And the prospect of having roughly 1,500 people across the street from a record store 3, 4, 5 times a week, that could have been a worthwhile enterprise.
Sure.
So there was a location available, 65 2nd Avenue, which I rented, and we stocked that from the overstock of the first store. And
so you had both running at the same time?
They were both going at the same
now,
time.
was it Pantasia or Mad Platters at this time?
It was still Pantasia.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was Pantasia for that long. When did Mad Platters come in?
Mad Platters came in with Yonkers.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
January 1980, because it was, Pantasia no longer made sense. There was nothing to do with paints.
When did you realize it didn't make sense? Was it when you were deciding to move and it was like a regeneration time? Like a rebirth time?
Well, I got rid of the clothing aspect of the store in the first store, probably within the first 18 months.
Okay.
Yeah. And the second store opened up, and the Clash were supposedly booked for a grand opening of the CBGB's Second Avenue Theater for 3 or 4 nights.
Oh, man.
But that never happened. The theater was decrepit. And I believe that Kelly did have talking heads, and he did have, I think he had Patti Smith.
Ooh, yikes, those are biggies.
But those were just about the only performers to ever perform at the CBGB Second Avenue Theater, and it went no further than that.
Gotcha.
So I was there with a lease to fulfill, and no 1,500 people across the street.
Gotcha.
But it was still a very interesting period. So Cliff and Ken Egbert, I don't know if you ever met Ken.
I remember Ken. I used to clean his records. He's the one who used to come in with the stack, and I'd clean them. And
okay,
I remember Ken.
And
absolutely,
they were the mainstays of the Second Avenue store. And
how long did you have them both open for? How long were the 2 stores open? Did you close the one?
No,
like before you moved to Yonkers, or was it all one thing where you closed them both and moved to Yonkers?
The Second Avenue store only lasted roughly a year.
Okay.
Or however long I had to fulfill that lease.
The original lease. Okay.
Yeah. And we had Ian Dory for the grand opening.
Really?
Of that store, yes.
Wow.
And we did have a number of other in-stores there and a number of other employees. But Ken and Cliff were always there. I was pretty much always at the Uptown store. Did
you have any in-stores at the first store?
At the first store, I don't think so. If we had anything, we might have had like the Paley Brothers.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. I think they were downtown too. Yeah.
So so then what makes the move to Yonkers? What's the prep?
Well,
events and
we had that store fulfilled, the Second Avenue store fulfilled its lease agreement, and again the rent was going to go up, and without the prospect of having that many people automatically across the street,
right? It didn't make sense.
Was not financially viable, and again, it was New York City. It was 1970s. Cliff lived in a building owned by, I believe, the Hells Angels.
Ooh, better pay your rent on time.
It was a very safe building.
Oh, I'm sure, but you better pay your rent on time.
Yeah. And Ken, one night, he was closing up the store, and we had one of those accordion gates
Sure,
that you lock up with a chain and a padlock.
Yep.
And there was a bum and a police officer, a uniformed police officer, fighting in front of the store. And Ken took the chain and pulled the bum off of the police officer, and the police came up and took the bum away. And somehow, accidentally, the bum expired in lockup overnight.
Oh no!
So I'm sure that being that area, it was a purely accidental death in lockup, because the guy was beating up on a police officer, and some kind of accident happened, right?
Jeez.
So Ken was going to go to England that summer, and he was prevented from going to England because he was a material witness in a very suspicious circumstance.
A homicide.
Yeah.
Yikes. All right. So when you moved to Yonkers?
We moved to Yonkers in 1980, in January of 1980, and became Mad Platters. And already, the inventory had been evolving from just being imports, or predominantly imports. I had a lot of connections in the record industry, record reviewers, and people who worked for record labels. We would get a lot of promo copies. One of my best friends, Barry Taylor, who worked for Record World magazine.
Relativity, right?
Pardon?
Relativity? Wasn't he Relativity?
Barry Taylor became general manager of Stiff US.
Okay.
So there was some interesting things coming from him. And Barry Coburn, who used to hang out at the Uptown store. And there's a whole slew of interesting stories related to that. He took Cliff with my blessing, and one of my later employees, John Latta, and relative important record distributors, was created in Hollis, Queens.
Like Run DMC.
I don't. Was that one of theirs? No,
Hollis, Queens is where Run DMC was from.
Oh yes, but it wasn't a Relativity product.
No. You said Hollis, Queens. I think Run DMC is the first thing that comes to mind.
Yes. Hollis was an interesting neighborhood too. Hollis made both of my locations look like Park Avenue. Yeah, very, very interesting times. And sometime thereafter, they wanted to form record labels. And one of those record labels, all right.
Grandkids up? Are the grandkids up, Joel?
I have to be a little bit quieter, apparently.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So...
I get you too excited. I'm sorry. I'll calm down.
Hunting rabbits.
That's funny, because I was thinking of the awesome Elmer Fudd guitar player that we got to talk about. Your favorite.
I'm seeing something flying around too, but it's probably not there. Don't worry about it. Flashback. Yes. So they wanted to form a record label, and they did. And Cliff signed Joe Satriani and Steve Vai.
Really? I didn't know Cliff signed them.
He signed them.
Holy cow!
And he signed many, many other people also.
Wow.
Impellitteri, I believe, was one of the early ones.
Oh man!
And they asked me who I thought might be worth signing, and of course we come up with Adrian Legg.
Oh, I gotta rip it off the wall.
As he goes looking for Adrian Legg.
I gotta rip it off the wall. This is from the in-store. This is from the in-store at Mad Platters.
Yes.
Right. And you did it. It's funny because I remember you had his first album, which is still impossible to find. I got to get a copy of it.
I had his first two albums, both of which.
And it's in your personal collection, almost like worn down like an old baseball mitt. That album, because you played it so much, and then I started playing it so much, and that thing must be dust by now.
No, I still have it. It's still.
It's such a good album. So tell everybody about Adrian Legg. I don't think I could describe him. I mean, I will. I'll try after you.
Okay, so sometime in the 1970s, I went down to Hollis and went through Importance Warehouse to pull stuff for the store. and I came across this Adrian Legg album, his first album on Spindrift. And that was one of the things that came back to the store, and it was the first thing that I put on the turntable.
It's just a guitar on his cover, right? The cover is just a guitar, I believe.
Yes.
Right.
And on the back, it shows him in his workshop working
yeah.
on ovations. And
Yep.
he also had a book on customizing guitars.
I had that book. I used to have that book.
Yes, I carried that book as
You
well. And I plunked that down on the turntable, and I was very impressed. So I called up Important, and I said, you have another 4 or 5 copies of that in the warehouse. Pull those for my next shipment. And as time went on, and they eventually, sometime later, created that record label, his name came up as somebody who should be signed. And he was. And he became Musician Magazine's acoustic guitarist of the decade for the 1990s, and won several other accolades. And in my mind, he's the logical successor to the John Fahey, then came Leo Kottke.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree 100% with that, Joel. 100%.
And I had seen both John Fahey and Leo Kottke live, so I know whereof I speak.
100% accurate what you just said. 100%.
The time that I saw Fahey was at Max's Kansas City, and you closed your eyes, and you could never believe that all that sound was coming out of one guitar at one time. It was just mind-boggling.
But you know what I would say? I would say your progression is right, but I think that the leap to Adrian Legg is almost like the leap that Satriani and Vai took, where it was like, because Adrian Legg, and anybody who hasn't listened to him, go listen to him. When he performs, he literally retunes each string multiple times while he's in the middle of riffs. It's the most crazy thing you'll ever see. And no one else does it. Nobody else can do that. Joel, I went to see him about 5 or 6 years ago. He played a library in Connecticut. It was a free show on a Saturday, and I was like, I am going. And he walked to the basement of the library, and you went to the basement, and it was like 20 people, and out walks pure, cute little Adrian, sits down, puts his guitar down, and he does that. In the middle of a riff, he will retune a string 5 or 6 times. Nobody does that. He's pure magic every time he touches the guitar.
It's intentional. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, fully. But nobody has a control over their sound on a guitar like he does when he plays it.
Well,
because of that retuning aspect. I'm always out of tune. My guitar always goes out of tune. So to watch him tune and go up and down with his tuners during a song, it gives me agita. But I'm also appreciative of what an art it is.
Either Vai or Satriani call him Uncle Adrian, and they say he has hammers for fingers.
Yeah. I've actually started. I listened to a little bit of him earlier today, getting ready for this show, because he was one of those artists, the top artist that you really brought me. There was another one. Who was it? The Ben Zaitin album.
Osamu Kitajima.
Osamu Kitajima. Yes. Yeah. Osamu Kitajima.
That's a great album. Thank you.
Really good album. So that became part of the canon for me and Eric Newser in post school.
Wow.
It was that. It was Alice in Wonderland. It was 200 Motels. It was, we'd go home and we'd get nice. And those, all the time I would play that. I got to find that one again.
Yeah. There was a time when, Gem Records was the major importer, and there was German News Service and Peters International in the city. But none of them were bringing in Japanese stuff. So Glenn and I decided to bring in Japanese stuff ourselves. And we brought in some rather remarkable stuff. We brought it in, first of all, for Beck Bogart Apathy Live in Japan.
Ooh, good album.
Which was a double album.
Yep.
And we brought in the Cheap Trick Live at Budokan.
Budokan. Oh, another good one.
It was not going to be released in the United States. And we had it for about 6 months before it got released in the United States.
Oh, man.
Tons and tons of good stuff. Miles Davis albums that didn't come out in the United States. Freddie Hubbard, Herbie Hancock, Japanese groups like Sadistic Mika Band and Far East Family Band. Tons and tons of stuff.
Oh, it's so awesome.
And it all sold well.
So you were in Yonkers from 80 until when?
Until just around the end of 89.
Oh, 89, right. Of course, that's when we met, right? I think I was your first Carmel employee or no?
I think so.
You had Jim, you had Chris, you had. I think I might have been the first
kid. There
kid.
was a guy named Conti, Mike Conti, I think.
Yeah, but I think I might have been. I was definitely the only kid that worked there, right? I mean,
there was a little guy with a beard. I don't remember his name. I think it might have been Andy, but I'm probably wrong. Jim will remember what his name was.
Right. And then Alan eventually worked there.
Alan and Chris Dentato and John Dollinger.
Right. Time of my life. So why did you move from Yonkers to Carmel? Why did that happen?
Why do I usually move?
Rent goes up and it's not worth it.
Yeah.
You kept migrating north, Manhattan, Yonkers.
Well, I lived in Putnam Valley. So it was also.
When you had the Yonkers store, you lived in Putnam Valley?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And you were in Putnam Valley when we were in Platters. Okay. Yeah. And nowhere after that as well, right?
Yeah, that was your time.
Right. Okay, cool. So let's talk about the time.
Of course, Arthur Wenderoth, Art Wenderoth, may he rest in peace.
Oh, when did Art pass? I didn't know he passed.
Oh my goodness, I'd say 4 years ago.
I loved Art. Bass player. I remember talking to him about $1 Billion Babies. He loved playing $1 Billion Babies in his band.
He and I opened up the Gift Boutique Nowhere in Yorktown.
Respiratory therapist at the hospital for 30 years or something? Like he had a long career, right?
He was the president of Putnam Hospital's credit union, and he was an emergency pediatric respiratory therapy nurse or expert. And he was a Vietnam veteran who saw some action behind the lines, I believe, in places like Laos and Cambodia, that he did not talk about very much, but he was a fairly serious individual in that regard.
Yeah, I don't remember him ever talking to me about that. And I haven't thought of Art in years, but now that I do, I just remember him being one of the most righteous guys. Just so nice, so kind, loved rock and roll, but he was somewhat straight-laced, right? For someone who had a long ponytail and wore, I don't think he smoked or drank, or, he's a respiratory therapist, right? So, but he was so cool. I just remember him emulating cool.
Because he was the president of that credit union, he always carried a gun.
Well, you know what? He was a safe person to carry a gun. I would trust him to carry a gun.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But there was a time when we had the gift store, where I wanted to go down into New York City to the Javits Center to go to a wholesale gift show.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I can't go. And I said, why not? He says, can't carry my gun.
Huh?
So I said, when's the last time that you were in New York City? He says, 22 years ago.
Wow.
He hadn't been. So I said, don't worry, you'll be with me. You can come. You don't need that. You just need your attitude.
Right. So, Joel, I want to do some show and tell. There's so much more I want to talk to you about, but we need to slow it down because we're going to go deep down to rabbit holes, and there's so many I want to talk to you about. So I went to Big Jim's, and I want to show, because your legacy is really now partially with him, right? I mean,
very, very much so, I think.
Very much so. So I want to show you. Let's start with the records. So a couple of records I just picked up today. This is my daughter just had her 16th birthday.
Congratulations.
Isn't that sweet?
That's sweet.
That's
only
so
$7?
sweet. I know, not bad, right?
That's very good.
Oh, you remember this one? Oh, I love the Misfits.
Wow.
Misfits. This is We Are 138.
That is very reasonable.
It's a bootleg. It's a bootleg. This one is not. This was one of my favorites back in the day. I'm going to learn how to play this later. This was Mark Arm from Mudhoney doing Bob Dylan's Masters of War.
Uh-huh.
Look at that
very
cover.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to learn that song later. I might record it and play it. So then I need some LPs. I'm feeling the blues lately. Remember this one?
Oh, Farragut. Yeah, sure.
They're a good starting early.
That was a good album.
Starting early, yep. Rounder Records. Rounder Records, Joel.
Yep. Rounder had some great stuff.
So this one's a bootleg I've never heard. It's my second favorite artist in the world. Frank's #1, Tom's #2. Check that out. So Tom Waits live.
Beautiful.
November 21st, 1976.
Wow.
I was 1 year old, and I'm going to play this later, and I can't wait. So
you're going to take out your pacifier while you're listening.
Oh, I'm not one of those rave kids, has the pacifiers in. No. So this album, my brother Joel introduced me to 3 albums, like distinct in my memory. Jay Giles Band, Centerfold Freeze Frame, whatever that was.
Okay.
Body Bob, Piss on the Wall. Men at Work, Business as Usual.
Right.
Great album. Colin's amazing. And this one?
Billy Joel. Yes, indeed.
Everybody loves Billy Joel. I love Billy Joel.
there's a story behind his 52nd Street album.
Do tell.
Are you the Stranger album? Excuse me.
Stranger. Okay.
Okay. So you know that there's the song "Bottle of Red, Bottle of White."
Of course, Italian restaurant.
And the Italian restaurant. And then in the back, there's a photograph of him sitting at a table in an Italian restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
That Italian restaurant was called GUIDOS, also known as the Supreme Macaroni Company. It was located roughly between 39th and 40th, way on the west side, around 9th Avenue. And in the front of the store, you had a bunch of little old ladies making fresh pasta. They sold fresh pasta out of the front of the store. And in the back of the store was a restaurant, which was GUIDOS. And let me tell you about the GUIDOS. GUIDOS was
Primo.
And bottle of red, bottle of white. They made their own fresh, homemade wine. No nitrites, no nitrates. Clean, smooth. Everybody loved. They also had things that weren't on the written menu. So if you were in the
You're reminding me of Dominic's. This sounds like Dominic's in the Bronx. You walk in, there's no menu. They just say, "What do you want?" What do you forget? You know, you sit family
we'll put
style.
it together for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the check,
Yeah.
like, you can get the same thing one day, and it'll be like $20 less the next day. Like it's family. I tell you, you know, it's great.
So they had, you know, like they had a shrimp franchise that wasn't on the menu, and it was different and better than any other shrimp franchise that you could ever have. And there were always celebrities there. It was a hangout, you know. I saw Steve Martin and Bernadette Peters there several times.
Holy cow! The Jerk.
Yeah.
That makes me think of The Jerk.
Yeah. So, you know, it was a good time.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's where Bottle of Red, Bottle of White
Interesting.
comes from.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, this one. Remember this album? Fish played this for one of the Halloween shows, and it was so good.
Yeah, that's a rather gifted individual, that Mr. George.
So Frank Zappa kicked him out of the band because he was too damn good.
Yeah.
He was like, "You got to go make your own band." Maybe the drugs, I don't know, but he pushed him out to do this. And rest in peace. Oh my God, is that a good album? This one, I don't know if you might not recognize it. It's good if you haven't had it. Joe, I'll email you the link. Got to check this one out. It's good. This one I'm diving back because I just
that there's another story about. You were there at the time when Jim Gibson yanked my chain on a Beatles album.
No, it sounds kind of familiar. Remind me.
Okay. He put a butcher cover on something else and shrink wrapped it. And he gave it to Amy Hernano, who worked at the Grand Union, to bring in with a bunch of other records and try to sell to me.
Oh, that's evil. Oh, that's
evil. It was evil.
Oh, that's evil. I love it. Jim's such a nice guy. He's such a nice guy. What?
But, no, that's, you know.
That's pretty funny. That's cool. Let's
just see what happens to Joel's face as he turns to that thing. Yeah.
You're lucky there wasn't iPhones and cameras, because that shit would be all over right now.
Right. Oh, so speaking of iPhones and cameras, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
But the Adrian Legg in-store, if anybody wants to see it,
yes,
it is on the Mad Platters Facebook page.
Awesome. Yes, definitely check it out. Adrian is something you've never heard before. It's a technique you've never heard from anybody.
Any of his stuff on YouTube.
Yep, absolutely. I got to get him on the show. And will you come on the show if I get Adrian?
Certainly.
All right. How about this guy? You ever sell any of his albums?
Yeah. Agartha and Pangea were the two albums that were Japanese release only that I brought in.
Look at this.
Of course, Kind of Blue.
Actually, yeah.
Nice.
So I also picked this up. Kind of cool.
He and I share a birthday too.
You and Miles?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get his nephew on. His nephew really does a lot of cool work with his uncle's legacy, Vince Calhoun Jr. So I've been sending him some emails, trying to rope him in and get in here, because nothing is cooler than Miles Davis.
No,
you can't argue. If anyone argues that statement, walk away and don't talk to him anymore. Got this, a nice cool Billy Joel. What's it called? It's the Complete Hits Collection 73 to 97 limited edition.
Nice.
All this is from Big Jim's record store in Buchanan. So you can get all of these things. Now it's poster time. These are all posters Jim had. GBH, Pretty cool. 1999. Oh, these guys are one of my favorite bands. And this brings together two of my favorite things from my childhood. Fat Albert and the Misfits. Check this out, Jim. Look, it's Fat Albert. He's eating, what's his name? He's eating them. And he's like, Spider's like, what are you doing? Why are you eating them? And there's the Fiend saying, because the Misfits are here. Killing Time will open too. You know Killing Time, right? Raw Deal, all those guys.
Yep. Yep.
I'm trying to get Drago on. He doesn't want to come on, but I want him to come on. How about this? The Strokes and the White Stripes. Irving Plaza.
Wow.
I'm telling you, Jim has a gold mine of posters.
We did have a lot of in-stores at the Yonkers store.
Didn't you have Overkill?
We had Overkill. We had Anthrax.
Oh.
We had...
SOD? Did you have Billy?
King Diamond was the big one.
Did he come in makeup?
I don't remember. But he was very, very late. And people were waiting and waiting. So we took our business cards and we numbered them in order of the line that was forming.
Mm-hmm.
We went from 1 to 666. And we gave them all away. There were over 600 people waiting for King Diamond.
Wow. That's why. That's the biggest in-store you ever had?
Eventually came back and some of them didn't. But he came several hours later and did the in-store.
Wow. Was that the biggest in-store you ever had, Joel? Was King Diamond?
That was the biggest.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Anthrax was good too.
I'm sure they had a couple hundred people at least.
At one point during their in-store, we were doing it downstairs. Tony was taking care of it. And one of the guys from Anthrax comes running upstairs because apparently we had just sold a 45 by Anthrax to a girl who brought it downstairs to have it autographed. And that was something that at least one of them didn't even have himself. So
that's pretty funny. So this one, this is a new one from Jim. I hadn't seen this, and this is one of my favorite bands. This is Sebadoh from '95.
Nice.
Sebadoh's, Lou Barlow from Dinosaur Jr., the bass player. This is his band. I have a really good story about smoking a joint with him one time before a show in Danbury in a snowstorm. I'll tell that another day. But this is Lou Barlow. So Sebadoh. All these came home just from today's trip. All right, only a couple more, but they're really good. Oh, upside down. Ministry from the House of Blues down in Orlando.
The artwork is just so superb.
Great. This is Steve Serio from Residence, and he does a lot of good work. Jim's good friends with him. So if you go to Big Jim's record store, you can get a lot of Steve's work. This one's kind of cool too. It's a Miniature Dead Cops Return. So MDC, right? Remember Millions of Dead Cops and Millions of Dead Christians? They would change it every time, right? MDC, The Unseen, Awkward Thought, Sex and Violence, Trenchcoat Army. It's CBGB's. Pretty cool. And lastly, the Queen, Gwen Stefani, no doubt.
Beautiful.
This was in Nassau Coliseum. I'm not sure of the year. Signed by the artist. Number 300 out of 300, Joel. Jim has the coolest stuff ever.
Yes, he does. I mean, he had a posters only location in New York City for a period of time.
He's amassed such a collection that I don't even think he realizes the magnitude of what it is.
Well, he had mentioned, I'd say roughly about a month ago, that he was going to announce something very, very special. And
I know what that is.
You know exactly what it is?
I do, and I'll tell you after.
Okay, but he did mention a certain name. He already mentioned that name. I don't want to mention that name if he doesn't want that name mentioned.
Let's stop it there. We'll talk after. But maybe he has multiple things up his sleeve. That's very possible. But I know of one biggie that's kind of like, really? Like monumentally, oh my God. So we got to talk about that off air. So Joel, this has been great. This has been great, man. We got to stop because I'm just going to keep going, and we could literally go for probably 3 or 4 hours and bore everybody. But I still have so many things I want to talk to you about. So will you come back on?
Certainly.
All right, man. Let's chat after this. Thanks everybody for watching. Lots going on this week. Prescott Niles tomorrow. Please tune in. The My Sharona. We're going to really dig into him meeting Jimi Hendrix. Oh, no, go, Joe. What do you got? Show some props. The Kinks. Yeah, you definitely turned me on to the Kinks big time. You turned me on to them big time. But
talking about guitarists. Where is this?
Oh, Leo Kottke. He's another one. He did a couple albums with Mike Gordon from Fish.
Wow.
Yeah, man. I didn't see him live, but really good albums.
I really
interesting.
like is Ry Cooder.
What Rycooder's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
T-Bone Burnett. You know, hey, we could just keep naming people we like all day.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
So, Joe, I love you, man. Thanks a lot for coming. Thanks for teaching me everything you've taught me. Namaste, man.
Namaste.
Come back on again. Peace, love, and Frank Zappa, everybody. Prescott Niles tomorrow. Tune in. This is getting a lot of fun. Yeah, man.
And as Ringo would say,
Peace, love, and Frank Zappa, everybody.